welcome to the third segment of Citizens Forum being filmed on June 30th. Our guest in this segment is Lisa Jennings, and we're going to be talking about PTSD and first responders. Lisa, thanks for being on the show, and maybe you can start by just describing your situation. Because you're a first responder, right?
Yeah, well, I'm a paramedic, yeah. First responders include paramedics, police officers, firefighters, 911 operators. I classify corrections and sheriffs as well. They're the first people that come to the citizens who call 911 who are in need of help, of any kind of help.
And what does a paramedic do? Did you work in an ambulance?
Yeah, we work in an ambulance. There's certain levels of training and care that's provided. So I've been a paramedic in Alberta and here in BC for a total of 24 years. And I'm proud to say I've never worked a day in my life. I am passionate about my career. Unfortunately, on June 14th last year, I had a call that it just didn't go right. And I was assaulted on that call, and not by the patient, but somebody else on the call assaulted me, and it triggered something in me that just made me feel very different. And for 2 weeks, I was not myself. I could feel I wasn't myself. Things just didn't feel right. I was nauseous, short-term memory issues, and then I just had a complete nervous breakdown at home and wanted to commit suicide.
And this is PTSD.
This was PTSD right here.
Can I just ask, did this happen because of what happened in one incident on one day, or was this something, because your job, I think, would give a lot of people PTSD, from what I know about PTSD.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's what we're lobbying the government for, is what's called a presumptive clause. And it can be triggered by one, for example, a person like yourself who witnessed, say, 9/11, September 9/11. Somebody who saw something that horrific would likely get a PTSD from the trauma. The brain just can't handle that. A first responder, it's more of an accumulative disorder. You know, we do these calls, we go from one call to the next call. There's no shutting down to take a break. We got to go and then another call. So we just stuff all of this stuff, emotion down. And then it can either be a smell sometimes, or it can be a visual, or it can just be something that it's just the straw that broke the camel's back type of situation.
You must see horrible things. I mean, you're dealing with car accidents, for example, which I've never seen one, and I can't even imagine what it's like.
Murders, stabbings, dismemberment, beheadings, the underbelly of society is what we see. Yeah, on a daily, monthly, yearly, decades long, and eventually we will, now science shows us that we are likely to sustain a mental health injury
Well, I
at
think
work.
I've got PTSD from some things that have happened in my life, and they've been nothing like what first responders probably see on a daily basis. And I'll just mention the little story I told you that, like everybody else, I often see police officers and first responders talking about accidents. They're being asked on radio or television, and it's very cold and very analytical. That's always the way it's presented to us by the media. Somebody very cold who almost doesn't care about what's happened. But years ago, when my children were in probably high school, and there was an evening where, just as part of the whole thing, parents were invited, because kids were getting their driver's licenses, to hear first responders talking about accidents and how you've got to be careful.
The party program?
Probably. Yeah. And all three of them, 2 first responders and 1 police officer, as they were speaking to us, all broke down crying when they were talking about what they'd seen. And I thought, it just struck me, this is so different from what I'm told by the media every day, that even though this happened years ago, I still remember it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you would have PTSD, because the symptoms of PTSD are life-altering, dramatic.
Mild.
I have PTSD,
Yeah.
and my life has come to a halt. And the only thing that keeps me going is what I've been doing with my life since, because I'm still employed, but I'm on a leave, and I can't, if I hear sirens, I go into an extreme panic attack, and I have nightmares, like night terrors. I have a video in my head of, I see all of the most gruesome calls I've ever attended play in my brain constantly, and I can't get rid of them without an appropriate type of treatment is what's necessary for first responders to get better.
And that's kind of what this interview is all about. So you are part of a group that is, I don't even know the name of it or what it's doing, but you can tell us.
I'm the founder of a grassroots movement. It started out very small. It was a very private group where people, confidential on Facebook, where first responders could support each other and share their stories, because there is so much stigma around it that nobody in the stations or the community, the police officers don't chat about it in the gym. There's a few officers now breaking their silence. And I decided to break my silence.
About having PTSD.
About having PTSD, and how WorksafeBC is putting me through undue stress to get treatment. So I developed a group called You Are Not Alone, PTSD BC, and we're lobbying the government to enact a presumptive clause. Alberta was the first province in Canada.
A presumptive clause means that if somebody gets what you've got, it's presumed that it's PTSD, and you don't have to fight to prove.
That's right.
What it sounds
exactly
it just
right.
seems as crazy as everything else that's going
That's
on
right.
these days.
And in 2012, the mental health injury was put into workplace, or was enacted in the Workers' Compensation Act, that it can be a worker's injury. So since 2012, 1,800 health workers have submitted a claim for mental health injuries. 114 of them were first responders, and in a 36-month period, only 31 of them were compensated.
Out of the
1,800.
So
That's unacceptable. And you know what's happening to the others? I can tell you, the ones that have been reported to me this year, since January, 3 paramedics have committed suicide, 3 firefighters have committed suicide, 6 police officers or peacekeepers, so that may include corrections and sheriffs, I'm not at liberty to disclose, have committed suicide.
You know, I'm shocked that this is the first I've heard about it, because, I mean, we all often talk about the role of the media here, and they seem to be keeping this secret, because why isn't that? Well, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it is out there. The government is very well aware of this.
Oh, I'm sure they're well aware. But,
Alberta has a presumptive clause.
But if there was a public upswelling of concern, which there probably would be if anybody knew about this, then the government would be forced to do something. But all these suicides are taking place, and, well, I'm a member of the general public, and I don't know anything about it. Maybe some people in the general public do, but it's not like Mike Duffy or the Stanley Cup, something important like that. That's
something
in the news.
as important as a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because 365 days of the year, 24/7, no matter what the toll on us, we'll come to your aid. And even if it's killing us.
Yeah.
So we had a meeting with Minister Bond on June 5th, and she's aware. Yeah. She knows. She's heard.
Who's Minister Bond? Is the provincial minister?
She's the provincial minister for jobs and labor, and she regulates WorksafeBC. Yeah. So we have had an outcry of emails to her office and the Premier's office from people from all over the province, and pleading for a presumptive clause. That is our only chance to save our first responders from committing suicide, because then you get the immediate treatment. And does the treatment work? Yes.
So what's going on then? Why won't the provincial government pay for treatment that will help first responders who have PTSD? It seems completely insane.
It's not the government. Worksafe is an insurance company that employers pay premiums into.
So it's Worksafe.
It's WorksafeBC. And the government can write this. I've even given them legal legislation, and they've got a template for firefighters, presumptive cancers. So I don't know. And I feel like the government should be held responsible for the next suicide. And one will be coming soon, sadly.
Well, and I think you can make that argument that, of course, they should be. So
I just say to the public, talk to your MLAs, write the government, plead for this, because where are we supposed to go for help?
And I'll say, contact your media and ask them why this is getting... I just say, as somebody who's out there in the general public who doesn't know WorkSafe issues, if it wouldn't have been for the fact that you got introduced to us on the show, I still wouldn't know anything about this, and neither probably would most of the people watching this.
Well, I'm very grateful for you having me on, and on behalf of all of the first responders in BC, we are very grateful for this time.
Well, then I'll say, probably for all the people in BC, we should be very grateful for all the great work you do for us.
Thank you.
Including when I got hit by a bus. So, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And what's going on, folks? Thank you for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.